Hey everyone, it's Friday, July 3rd, and welcome again to another segment of Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Lee Meadows. I'm a professor of management at Walsh College, also president of the State of Michigan chapter of the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources. I'm also a leadership consultant working on a variety of different projects, but like all of us, I'm still kind of in the house because of COVID and trying to stay safe. And so I'm doing this show every week as a way of just trying to keep us all engaged, to stay up on some of the topics that involve business, specifically leadership and behavior and those kinds of things. And just a kind of way of reaching out and letting you all know that you're not alone in the universe, and no matter what's going on, there's still a voice here who is active and a voice that wants to represent you. And I want to share information about trends that are going on in the world of business, even though we're shut down. So we may be shut down, well, not really shut down because things are starting to pick up now, which is a good thing, but we still got to be safe. But just because business was shut down didn't mean that business was shut down. There's always a lot of interesting things going on, and today we're going to spend some time talking about some of those interesting topics. And so like every week, what we like to do is to acknowledge folks who have been supportive of, well, me and my career, the organizations that have had a chance to represent Walsh College and places like that. And so we started last week, we said we would begin to identify some specific sponsors and supporters that we want to acknowledge, and we're going to do that every week. And last week we did Cassandra Harvey with Exodus Consulting, we did Tina Marie Woolfield with Tiamo Consulting, and we did Brenda Miller with Miller Marketing. And it's always nice to have their support. So let me introduce you to a few others that we have kind of in support of us as well. I'd like to welcome Sigrid Solutions. They are a leadership development, human resources, recruiting, management organization that have been, they may be somewhat relatively new to the field, but the individuals who are the partners in the organization, Mike Durgis and Christy Stepp, who are partners in this organization, they aren't new to this. They are new to this profession. They are they know a lot of what's going on. So we acknowledge them and their support, and for a lot of things that we have coming as well. And just because I know I have him out there, I also want to let you all know that another one of our primary support persons has been my good friend James Reid, who with employment attorney with Dinsmore. I think I mentioned him last week as one of those individuals who, if there's somebody who knows employment law inside and out, backwards and forwards, it's James Reid. If you got an employment issue that you need to have some consultation around, give James a call. And I think I also mentioned that he and I are both going to be at the HR Unite conference on July 15th and 16th. He's going to be a keynote speaker. He's kicking off the conference with a lot of legal updates, and so for those of you who haven't had a chance to go to the HR Unite website and get tickets, get them because they're going out and they're going out well. And so, James, I want to acknowledge you this week, and thanks again for tuning in and being such a good supporter. And also, some of the hardest working men in the benefits business is my friends over at the Great Lakes Benefit Group, Kareem Cade and Percy Richardson and Rob Hardman, who have been absolutely fearless in their wanting to get benefits information out to human resource organizations, especially what's been going on with COVID. It's really affected a lot of the legislation. Sometimes we may not know what kind of benefits you have access to. And so if you got any kind of uncertainty around those areas, or you find that after this is over, you have some need for different access to benefits, give these young men over at Great Lakes Benefit Group a call. You'll find them very welcoming. You'll find them very knowledgeable, and boy, they know how to get the job done. So we thank all of you again for your support and for tuning in. And one of the things that I don't know if we get a chance to spend too much time talking about is that as president of the National Association for African Americans State of Michigan and Human Resources State of Michigan chapter, we put on some specialty conferences. And for those of you who may have missed it, we had our third annual When Women Lead conference yesterday. Now, of course, it was virtual, but the mere fact that it was virtual also meant that it was on the money. And this is the third year we've run this conference. It's gone over extremely, extremely well. We've had some phenomenal speakers. In our first year, we had people like Christy Stepp, Dr. Rita Fields, Dr. Phyllis Meadows. We had Cassandra Harvey. We had Deborah Williams. We also had, in our second year, we had people like Donna Wilson. And we had individuals like Dr. Iris Ware. We had Dr. Priscilla Pringle from the first year. We had Dr. Lois Thomas for the second year. So this year, in keeping with that tradition, we had, again virtually, we had Verita Nix talked about navigating your career through a pandemic, and boy, her stuff was just right on the money. What she wanted folks to know and understand is that even though we're going through a pandemic, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be thinking about your career. Now, that was followed up with Felicia Maxwell, who took a completely different approach and said, well, if you're going to navigate your career, here's some healthy things you need to think about. And as a society, we don't spend as much time thinking about our health as we should. And she gave us some phenomenal tips around exercises that you can do at work, foods that you can consume, maintain a nutritional balance, and things in that area. And it was absolutely wonderful. That was followed up by Eric Monet of the Eric Monet Group, who really talked about how you begin to become, how do you stand in your truth when you're operating from an authentic leadership point of view. And some of the things that she was able to point out about that particular perspective were right on the money. And that was followed by Sherry Watkins, who talked about how to lead effectively when working for a racist and sexist boss. And one of the things that she did with that presentation, she took us on a journey that she experienced early in her career that really altered her way of thinking, altered her way of approaching about being professional. She ended up working for right off the bat, she ended up working for a pretty racist boss. And that kind of shaped how she began to think about things and made her a lot stronger as she began to move forward in her career. It was just a wonderful, wonderful virtual conference, and for all those folks who attended, I know they enjoyed it. And for those of you who weren't there, you missed a wonderful opportunity. But fear not, because When Women Lead 3 only means that what we'll be doing is doing a Women Lead 4. And so I want to thank all of them for taking time out from their schedules to present that workshop and to really enlighten us about some issues and some things that are going on. So welcome back. And so what are we going to talk about this week? One of the questions that I get from time to time is, how important is volunteerism as part of your career development, as part of your leadership development? What are some of the things that individuals should be thinking about? Should they even be thinking about volunteerism when they're trying to really begin to build their career? And to that question, I'm just going to, right from the bat, I'm going to say, if you're not spending time in some form of volunteerism, you're missing a completely life-altering opportunity on your career. The ability to volunteer, to work with nonprofit organizations, to allows for a wonderful opportunity to develop your leadership skills. And because it's volunteerism, which means you're not getting paid, you're not getting time served or anything like that, what you are attempting to do is to learn things from a different perspective. And while this particular show is about let's talk business, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that when you're talking business, you're also talking about that connection into the nonprofit volunteerism world. Now, all that essentially means is that any set of skills that you might be learning formally inside of your organization, whether it's small, mid-sized, or large, whatever those leadership skills that you are learning there's an equal set of leadership skills that also happens out in the volunteer world. In fact, I would go so far as to make the argument that those skills that you're learning formally inside of the organization transfer quite well over into the world of volunteerism. And let's begin to look at some of this. Let's begin to kind of break a lot of this down. Now, Being a volunteer can help you develop all kinds of leadership skills. Leadership skills like, well, your communication skills, your negotiation skills, your delegation skills, facilitation skills, and time management skills. These are skills that are all formally developed within the organization. But the real test of whether or not you're learning a skill is how well you're able to use that skill outside of the organization. In fact, your ability to use that skill, its transferability into other organizational settings. And nonprofit volunteer organizations are just a marvelous opportunity in which to take the formal skills that you're learning inside of your organization and give them some equal application into a nonprofit or setting on a board, or it's just giving you an opportunity to really begin to think through a lot of this stuff. How do you communicate inside of a formal organization? Same kind of communication happens inside of nonprofits. And nonprofit organizations, you've got to learn how to negotiate, because there's always the issues of budget and use of resources that come into mind. One of the other things is knowing how to delegate. And if you really want to understand a challenge, you got to learn how do you delegate when you're delegating to volunteers. So because there are issues that come with how volunteers use their time. Remember, these are unpaid individuals who are given of their time and their energy and they're doing this willingly. The notion of knowing how to facilitate inside of an organization also has direct application to what you do in nonprofit and working as a volunteer. And then the use of time management, because when people who are volunteering come together, they are still utilizing their time, that valuable commodity known as time, and they're trying to use it to the best of their abilities. So all of those skills that make up being an effective leader inside of an organization also have direct application to what goes on in the volunteer world. Let's begin to break some, and here's why you need to do this. Working as a volunteer, for example, I sit on 3 different boards. I sit on a charter school board. I also sit on a housing board. I also sit on a nonprofit human services board as well. And what sitting on those boards does for me is that it helps to reinforce that sense of commitment. And it's commitment beyond yourself. All right? It's that commitment that there are other parts of the universe that require your time and attention. And once you start to engage in that different part of the universe, in those other settings, it does tend to strengthen that sense of focus and commitment to seeing something through and making something happen. It's also good for making you less self-centered and more other-centered. When you are committing your time and energy to serving on different volunteering on different boards, one of the things you begin to learn is that there are other people in the world besides yourself. There are other people who have needs that exceed your own individual needs, and whenever we can trace this as far back to the beginning of time. Whenever you give of yourself in service to others, it only strengthens you as a human being. It broadens your perspective about things. It helps you begin to see things in a different light and to begin to really focus on what's important. When you look at some of the work masterfully being done by a lot of our human service organizations, one of the things that they help us to understand is that there are other parts of the universe other than yourself. They force you to begin to think about, well, when we say, well, this is important, that's important. Well, is it really? How important is it that that when compared to what how you're eating versus someone else is eating, these organizations have a way of focusing you in such a way that it really begins to awaken your sense of others. It also allows you to gain knowledge in other areas. One of the things that happens when we go to work in business, part of us being experts is how well we develop ourselves and our knowledge in our unique area, whether it's in the case of human resources, leadership development, diversity, the kinds of things that I'm an expert in. I may be knowledgeable in those areas, but when I started serving on a charter school board, I started to become knowledgeable about charter schools, and their impact in the community. When I started to serve on a housing board, I gained more knowledge about how the importance of housing and meeting different housing needs and the folks who become part of that. And serving on a major human services board is also it's eye opening, it's awakening, but it also broadens your knowledge to the point you begin to realize there's more going on in the universe than just your own universe. And it also makes you much more aware of your own level of integrity. When you're serving on a small board that doesn't have a lot of money to do most of anything, what it tends to do is make you a lot more aware of how money is spent, how the board is being perceived, what's important, and that own sense of, as you move through your career, who is it that you want to be, and what are some of the things that are going to be important to you. And I just find that being a volunteer and serving on boards, they have a way of keeping you focused and honest, and streamline your thinking in such a way that you begin to see a lot more of what's going on in the world, and you tend to miss less things. In the long run, ladies and gentlemen, it's good for the community. We have had a number of challenges since COVID has hit, a number of challenges that have really stretched us in ways that we didn't think were possible. And it's stretched us as a local community, as a regional community, as a national community, and even as a global community. But one of the things that it does is when you become much more community focused, it's good for business, because the relationship between business and the communities that it serves, it's a symbiotic relationship in which one benefits from the other. And I got to be honest with you. I think that in a lot of ways, if a lot of the kind of the negativity that's going on with people, not the general protest, but the reactions to it, some of the hate stuff that's been coming out, some of the taking a position just to take a position. Sometimes I think a lot of that comes from the fact that you just don't have enough to do. You don't have enough to do with your time. You really need some other things to think about. And if you take that negative energy that's being directed toward individuals who haven't done you any harm, if you channel that energy from negative to positive and say, volunteer to be part of a school board, or if you really want to know, needs in a community, then go spend some time at the Shriners Hospitals for Children, or go spend time with St. Jude's Hospital for Children. Go into scenarios where you see little children who have so many more needs than just your general, I don't want to wear a face mask because. And maybe it's a way of starting to shift your focus from being so self-centered to thinking about others in such a way that, wow, there are others out in the universe, and maybe some of the things that I'm doing are things that are having a negative impact. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my optimism. That's just my kind of way of thinking about Well, maybe there's just there are other ways that you can direct your time and attention. I have found over the years that every chance I've had to be part of some kind of volunteer group, whether it's working with a community mental health board, like I said, working with a charter school board, or just the mere fact that I've had to engage with other components of society that I normally wouldn't engage, that I normally would have no knowledge about, has helped to strengthen my own sense of self and raise my awareness in ways that I never thought was possible. And in doing so, has also helped to master leadership skills around communication, around negotiation, around conflict management, around facilitation, and around time management. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you wanna talk business, let's talk business and how business connects to developing and enhancing your skills by use of being a volunteer. So get out into the community and serve. Don't don't keep all that stuff inside. Go out and connect with the community. Find a small board that you can be a part of. Find a church that is doing some wonderful things for the community. Go out and become part of the lives of other people. And I absolutely guarantee you that once you've had that kind of experience, you will your career will take off. You'll become a much broader and more well-rounded leader as you begin to move through your career as well. All right. So having said all that, let me tell you about some other things that are coming up. Gone 2 weeks from now, July 15th and 16th, the HR Unite conference, it will be virtual, will be kicked into gear. And as I mentioned earlier, my good friend James Reid is going to be kicking off. So we're one of the keynote speakers there. I'll also be there doing something, doing a presentation. Our good friend Brenda Miller with Miller Marketing is also going to be a part of that. Tina Marie Wofield will also be giving the presentation. It's just going to be a great fun 2 days of activity. If you haven't gotten your ticket, go to the website, get your ticket, because this day and a half is going to be a lot of fun. All right, because the group of individuals who are gathered to do this, they are just fun. And you know what? You don't know fun until you've had a chance to hang out with human resource folks, because we get it. Right? We absolutely get it. We know that there's a lot of intense things that are going on in society, and we have to manage those intense issues to the best of our ability. But we're also wise enough to know that we have to get together and help each other get through some of this. Oftentimes I'm reminded of this wonderful opening scene in Woody Allen movie Broadway Danny Rose. In the opening scene, there's this pan that goes there's the pan scene that goes into this deli, and at this deli there's these two comedians who are having a conversation over a sandwich, and what they're doing is exchanging information about jokes that have worked, where they've bombed, things that have worked well. And as the scene begins to unfold, more and more comedians show up at the table, and they all start to engage in conversation about audiences and being taunted and jokes that have worked and all that, and they share stories. Well, every group has that time when they come together over deli sandwiches at the table, and they sit and share stories. And they share stories because nobody else understands that experience better than they do. So if you're a human resource individual and you're not connected with HR Unite, and you're not connected with any of the other groups that are going on, I'm going to tell you, you're missing out on a wonderful opportunity. So if you get a chance, get to HR Unite. And so once again, this has been my opportunity to come forth and just spend a little bit of time with you. I hope that you are doing well, and that you're going to go into the 4th of July weekend relaxed and comfortable and spending time with your family and enjoying that. But please be careful. Please stay safe. And as you know, this is my way of kind of ending the whole thing by saying to all of you, the best way to make a difference is to be the difference. And having said that, Have a good holiday weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.